Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Wow, this week is an exciting one because I am officially in prep mode for the Impact and Income in-person implementation weekend intensive this week. And I'm so excited that in just a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be spending a whole weekend with the amazing intensive participants at the 5-star Langham Hotel in London. And we're going to be building out some of this year's most successful and fun businesses for 2019. I'm really excited about this, genuinely. So if you are somebody who is participating in the intensive in just a couple of weeks' time, we're on the final countdown, which I couldn't be more excited about. But also, not only are we on the final countdown, it is now time to start thinking about the business that you really want to build in 2019. And actually what that involves. And so for me, one of the things that I was thinking about and prepping for my awesome intensive participants today is about looking at the right offers that are going to help you grow your business and scale it whilst making sure that you make the most impact on your audience, get them the best results, but also increase your income and increase your freedom levels. So I figured that I would talk to you guys on the podcast about this today and break down some of the myths behind the madness when it comes to creating offers. Because I see a ton of people who are just creating offer after offer after offer, and they're getting really stressed about it, and everyone's trying to launch the same thing but in different guises. And the reality is that your offers don't have to be like that. Your offers should be along your client journey. And if you don't know what your client journey is right now, make sure you go back and you listen to the episode on creating content for your client journey, and that will help you again decide what content you want to create and what offers you want to create as a result of that. Now, it goes before saying that before you put an offer out there, obviously you need to do the market research behind it. So you need to find out whether your audience actually needs the solution to this particular problem right now, if it is their main focus or their main problem that they want to get solved right now. And if it isn't, then obviously do not go ahead with creating an offer. Make sure that instead what you're doing is you're always creating offers that your audience want and need at the current moment that's solving a major problem. Now, even if you've done your market research in the last 6 months, please go out, please do more. The biggest killer of sales that I do see out there when people have a launch that they deem unsuccessful is that they didn't do market research just before launching, and instead they looked at a problem their audience had had last year or even a few months ago and decided that they were going to sell that solution again, when in actual fact their audience had moved on, and so they were selling a solution that was no longer relevant. So make sure that you do your market research. The second thing you need to do is actually focus on the offer type that's best for you and your audience. And that sounds really basic, doesn't it? Because obviously you can't sit there and think about creating offers and think, well, I'm just going to create something my audience hates, or I'm going to create something that I hate delivering. But actually it's really common. And what we're starting to see in the online world is a rise in people who are creating offers, not necessarily because they enjoy them, but because they've seen other people sell them out and be really successful. So what I want you to do this year instead is to turn that on your head and actually think about from the beginning, what offer is going to make the most difference to your audience? And also, what is the offer that is going to light you up most in terms of delivery? Sounds a little bit corny, but we're going to dive into this because it genuinely is so important. Now, way back when I started my business 4 whole years ago, it's going to be 5 years this year. How terrifying is that? I've just realized. But seriously, 4 whole years ago when I started my business, there were specific offers on the market that did really well. And it was all like one-to-one coaching, and it was all 12-week programs. And in week 1, you did your branding, and in week 2, you did your website, and in week 3, you did your, I don't know what you did in week 3, ideal clients maybe. But it all went along the same vein. And people were charging an awful lot for these programs. And I've no doubt that some of them were actually really good. But the reality was that every single coaching program looked the same. So it didn't matter who you wanted to coach with, really. you're always going to end up with the same first 12-week experience. You're always going to do your ideal client, then you're going to do your brand, then you're going to do your website, then you're going to talk about pricing, then you're going to talk about your offers, then you're going to talk about sales somewhere at the back end of all of that. So like week 11 or week 12, cynically, perhaps the people delivering the program didn't have to worry about the results and being responsible for them. But nevertheless, I digress. And every single program really did look the same. That was what was available in the market at that point in time. And then what we started to see was the shift from people who were getting so burnt out because yes, they were charging effectively and they were making a lot of money through selling these one-to-one programs, but they were realizing it wasn't scalable. All right. They were realizing that actually they'd ended up with all these one-to-one clients who required a lot of time and a lot of attention and a lot of support. And that actually that business model perhaps didn't suit their lifestyle. It didn't suit who they were. It didn't suit what they wanted to achieve. And so they started to find that it had become more difficult to sustain. And also that their income had hit this plateau, right? Because there's only so many one-to-one sessions that you can do per week. And once you're booked out, that's it. You can't do anything else. You know, it's the same in the done for you space. There's only so many done for you clients you can take on before you are at your limit. And then you've reached your, you know, you've hit your income ceiling and you've hit your client ceiling. And it doesn't matter if you go on and you do any more audience building. It doesn't matter how much you focus on visibility. If you can't physically take on any more clients, you have a problem. And so that's why people started going into this, great, we're all going to set up group programs, or we're going to set up self-studies and branch out into this one-to-many model. So people started moving away from one-to-one and into one-to-many and experienced different problems. You know, there were different issues that we're not going to talk about today because they're not relevant. But, you know, people started experiencing different issues. And again, we had this cyclical nature of the market shifting, certainly the coaching and consulting market shifting from one-to-one to one-to-many back to one-to-one. And in my business, I started with one-to-one offerings, and I've always been somebody who likes to work in quite an intense kind of way. And so for me, I started with 1 month intensives, and I really, really enjoyed those. I loved the impact that they made on my clients because I found that in month 1, people were fired up. They were motivated. They were ready to go. They wanted to take action. They wanted to get results. But I found that in the traditional 3-month programs, what would happen is that people would dip in and out of motivation. So month 1, they'd be really motivated. They'd want to get going. They'd take huge action, get great results. And then month 2, they kind of sit back and be like, oh, well, chill, relax, everything's good, life is okay. And I'd be like, what? You know, with my rocket trying to go up their backside to get them to do something. And then month 3, they'd be in panic mode. Oh my goodness, I need to make money again. How do I do this? Help. And it would be this, you know, roller coaster adrenaline spike for both me and for them. And I didn't enjoy it. So I ran these 1 month intensives because those for me were what was going to make the biggest impact to my audience at that time, solve one specific problem in 4 weeks. And then if they needed another problem solved, they could choose to do another 4 weeks, or alternatively, they could choose to move on and learn something different or just practice that for a little while before coming back. And that worked really, really well for me. And over time, as I built my audience, I decided that I wanted to build a business model that wasn't as focused on one-to-one, because again, there are certain things with any kind of one-to-one done for you service that means you reach an income plateau and you reach an impact plateau very, very quickly, because again, limits to how many people you can take on. And that's when I started exploring this one-to-many model. And eventually I took that on an automated and evergreen basis so I could run these funnels and really impact as many people as possible, increasing my income, but also increasing the freedom that I allowed myself, and made sure, you know, that actually I was building a business around a lifestyle that I wanted versus building a business that was slowly choking me, so to speak. I was trying to find a nicer analogy there, but just couldn't. So really focus on the offer type that is going to be best for your audience in the first instance. And the way we do that is we look at what is actually going to solve their problem in the quickest and easiest way. Is it going to be an intensive with you? Is it going to be a group program? Is it going to be a mastermind? Is it going to be a done for you solution? And start thinking about that. And that's where we start, is what's the quickest and easiest solution for your audience? That's where we always start. Whether or not we end up with that particular offer, because for example, if you say, okay, well, the quickest and easiest solution is if I do it for them, but you don't have room, that's when we can move down the categories and go, okay, well, if we can't do it for them because we don't have the time in terms of making this an offer that fits with our lifestyle goals, then we can look at what's the next best thing. Is it then a group program? Is it then a self-study? Is it something that you can run live, a workshop, for example? But this is what we need to do first, is always focus, what is the offer that's going to get them the best result in the easiest and quickest way, and what's going to be the best lifestyle fit for you. All right, so once we've matched those two up, then we need to look at cash flow, because cash flow is really, really important, and pricing is really important. And, you know, people often come to me and say, but I don't want to sell group programs because I don't want to sell low ticket items. Now, personally, I don't think that group programs have to be low ticket. You know, you could run high level masterminds, you can run group programs. A lot of my group programs, for example, start at around the £1,000 mark. And for the majority of people, that isn't low ticket. Okay. So I think it's absolutely fine to start looking at your cash flow and thinking, what do I actually want to get paid for this? Does it make sense to have 10 people paying me £500, or would I rather have one person paying me 5,000? What's going to be easiest for my lifestyle, easiest for my cash flow, and easiest for me to get the client the biggest and best results that they can get? So those are the things to kind of think about when you're actually choosing an offer. And then another question I get a lot when it comes up with when we start looking at this offer creation idea is, what kind of offers can I actually have? And it can be really overwhelming because there seem to be so many out there in the online space, but actually we only tend to use 2 or 3. You know, so I'm going to walk you through a couple of different offer types. So in 2019, you can perhaps think about changing some of your offers up and thinking about what you really want and the best way that you are able to deliver the biggest impact for your audience. So first and foremost, obviously at the top of the tree in terms of support level and in terms of finances generally is one-to-one or done for you. And these are typically the most expensive offers that you will sell because they are directly correlated to your time and they are not as scalable as other offers. All right, so they are the ones that are most expensive. They are the ones that require the most level of support from you to your client. But in the beginning, they are the ones that are going to be able to make you the most money in the quickest amount of time. So if you're new to business, if your business is relatively new, it's a good idea, if you want to increase your cash flow quickly, to be focusing on those high support, high ticket offerings, not just because of cash flow, but also because the closer you are to a person's problem and to actually watching them go through the transformation process, the quicker you start recognizing frequently asked questions, the quicker you are able to put it into a format that can be followed when you do decide to scale that model out to group programs and so on. So that's the first type of offer, is you have your one-to-one. So one-to-one consulting, one-to-one coaching, whatever that might look like, and done for you, which as it sounds, it's where you will actually go in to somebody's business or to somebody's life and do the work for them. And we see that with web designers, VAs, we see it with graphic designers, Facebook ads managers, anything like that. And then as we start to come down the pyramid, we start to see offers that are still high in terms of impact, in terms of support, and in terms of cash, with things like masterminds. Okay, so if you are a service provider and you're somebody who doesn't want to do done for you work, then you might consider running a high level mastermind. So for example, this year I have my Power of One mastermind running for 12 months, and that is a high level mastermind that people can join to help get them to where they want to be in terms of their business goals for the end of 2019. And that's a great experience. It means that I get to spend some time one-to-one with my mastermind participants, but I also get to give them a built-in support network and community that they can reach out to and use to help them best on their journey. Okay. And so masterminds can be really, really powerful. Again, increasing your income and increasing your lifestyle freedom. So the way, for example, that we run my mastermind is that people get access to me in the masterminding calls each month, but also they get a certain amount of one-to-one calls as well. So they can access me in the group calls, in the one-to-one sessions, and in the private community that we've got set up for them. But that does give me lifestyle ability, because when I'm not on those calls, when I'm not servicing those particular clients, I've got lots of other time to spend with my other clients from areas like my membership, with clients from my intensives that I'm running or workshops, or even on my evergreen courses. Okay. Now, if you're thinking, but I'm a done for you service provider, what's my next step? Because I can't run a mastermind, then you have an option here as well that, again, is high ticket, high support, but gives you more lifestyle freedom. And that is to expand and start hiring into your team. Okay. Now, I did this recently. I say recently, a good few months ago, actually. I tend to be one of those people who's like, yeah, recently, and then realize it's like 8 months ago with some of the people working on Team Jest. I was like, look, I need you guys full time. And actually, I kind of either need you to not have any other clients because selfish, or to increase the team so that we can be working at full capacity. And so the people who were working for me started to increase their teams. My podcaster, amazing podcast producer, Scott, he started hiring to his team. Amazing Liz, who is the COO, started hiring into her team, to actually mean that we could get specialists working on certain areas and that they could be increasing their business, increasing their impact at the world, rather than just having to sit inside my Mac all day long. I feel like they're the borrowers. If I could make them stay on my computer all day, I just would. They'd fix all of my problems. So you can actually start doing that as a done for you service provider. You can increase your team, which gives you the ability to take on more clients, gives you the ability to specialize in different areas, but not have to do the work yourself, and takes a lot of pressure off of your shoulders. And then from there, we start going down the pyramid into things like group programs. Okay, so a group program is different to a mastermind in that it has a set curriculum. So you'll find that from week to week, you have a specific topic that you want to teach your audience, and they will go along, they'll follow the homework or the instructions to make that happen. That's the only difference really between group programs and masterminds. Group programs are curriculum led and taught, and a mastermind is facilitated, and you have access to a group of peers who can help you stay accountable, but also it's facilitated by somebody who expects you to take responsibility for your own learning and arrive with your kind of problems or the things that you want solved to those particular sessions. All right. So you can go down the pyramid, you can have group programs. Again, group programs can start anywhere from 297 up to, I've seen group programs of £10,000. So it depends on what level of group program you want to run. Just bear in mind, it does need a curriculum. All right. And then we go down again and we start looking at DIY or self-study offers. And this is what has become super, super popular online over the last few years. It's certainly where I've focused for a lot of time, because it's much, much easier to run funnels to DIY or self-study products, because that is the end user, the client, taking responsibility for their own learning and making their way through a program or through a course at their own pace. Okay, and so those can be super, super popular. We also have intensives, and I really like intensives. I'm a massive, massive fan. So you can work intensively for a day, you can work intensively for a half day, you can do what I'm doing, run weekend intensives, and these can be in person and they can be virtual as well. So again, if you want to go high ticket, high support, but to fit into your lifestyle and to fit easier into your audience's lifestyle, which if you have busy parents as ideal clients, then you're going to find that intensives are really popular. You can fit a lot of learning into a condensed amount of time. And actually, it doesn't cost any less. It actually typically tends to be more expensive than longer term work, because you are helping them learn and achieve quicker. They're getting results quicker because they have everything that they need to move forward. And again, if you're in the done for you space, you can absolutely do this. You could run intensives for clients where you train their team. Perhaps they're hiring a VA in-house, and you could run an intensive to train that person on everything that you've been doing for them, so that they can move on and they can start working full-time without a huge long handover. The next thing we have are paid workshops. Now, these are different to intensives in that generally you're going to be teaching one thing. So one thing per workshop. And again, these typically tend to be virtual, although you can run them in person if you've got a really strong local network and you want to run a local paid workshop on a particular aspect of sales or marketing or mindset, whatever you want to do. But I tend to do these virtually, and they tend to be 2 to 3 hours long and cover off one topic in detail. And again, these can range anywhere from between £100 right up to, I think the most I've ever charged was $797. All right. They can be as interactive as you like, or they can be sold on auto, on evergreen moving forward if you keep your recordings, obviously. Then we've got memberships. So we're starting to move into this like low ticket, so low price but high volume model. So we've got things like memberships here, which will cost your audience less, but they are going to get a slower transformation. All right. Because obviously in a membership, a lot of your learning is self-study. It is about being self-motivated. However, you can also, in this low ticket, high volume piece, incorporate a lot of recurring revenue. So things like subscription boxes, magazines, paid newsletters, and even things like paid specialist content. So, setting up a private podcast on Patreon, for example, and charging people to listen to those episodes and participate, And again, with this low ticket, high volume offers, you've also got your one-off offers. So things like mini courses, one-off video explainers, one-off done for you services, or even things like AppSumo or Groupon deals that they're not going to be bringing in the big bucks every single time they sell, but they're going to sell regularly enough that you're going to end up making a lot of money out of them anyway. So those are the different types of offers that you can have, and those are the best ways that you can create an offer that gives you the maximum lifestyle ability to do what you want when you want, but also to make sure that your audience gets the impact and the transformation that they are truly looking for. It's been epic to spend this Monday morning with you. I'm very excited. On Friday, we have one of my genuinely favorite people on the internet coming on to share their real sales strategies behind their superstar success. So please make sure that you tune in on Friday. It's going to be an epic episode. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you there.